Hello, this is Pam Powers, the Tucson Progressive, giving you a legislative update. Today is April 28, 2023. Well, this week the Arizona legislature made the New York Times, and unfortunately it wasn't because they did something like amazing, like pass a bipartisan budget that fully funds public education, or perhaps pass a water agreement that would protect our groundwater, or perhaps repeal the flat tax. No, it was nothing like that. They made the New York Times this week because there was a heated debate in the Arizona House over the Tamale Bill. The Tamale Bill isn't really about tamales and nanas selling their homemade foods in order to make some extra money. Although people selling homemade goods to scrape by are part of this scenario. Really, the basis of 2509, the Tamale Bill, is deregulation of homemade goods and a broad expansion of homemade goods and that definition in the state of Arizona. So 2509 was proposed by Speaker Pro Tem Travis Grantham. He's one of the hardcore libertarians. He was the previous chair of the Regulatory Affairs Committee. 2509 went through Regulatory Affairs and didn't go through the Health Committee. It sailed through Regulatory Affairs, Rules, the House and the Senate, and was vetoed by Katie Hobbs. And hence the drama this week. Katie Hobbs vetoed 2509 over public health concerns. Our previous law passed in 2018, which covers cottage goods. So these are foods made in your home kitchen and they are not inspected. The previous law said that these foods would be limited to foods that were not hazardous if they were not stored at like a proper temperature or something like that. So this was limited these home goods to being things like nut mixes or some sauces, maybe salsa, some sorts of hard candy, anything that didn't include meat or dairy or eggs or fish, or things that had to be stored at a certain temperature and kept for a designated amount of time. So the previous bill was one that passed easily, and I actually voted for it back in 2018. What 2509 does is it keeps some of the regulatory framework of the other bill. There is a registration required for vendors who want to sell their home goods. They have to have their name and their registration number labeled on the product. There has to be an ingredient list, and there's a label, there's a warning label that says that this was made in a home kitchen, which might have also had allergens in it, and it's kind of a buyer beware in a way, saying that this is an uninspected product. So all of that was in the previous bill, but what 2509 does is it expands and it says that these people can actually make products that have meat in them, meat or poultry in them. And I agree with Governor Hobbs's veto because we have to have these things inspected, and 2509 has no inspection. It also says that these people who make these home goods with meat or without meat and chicken can sell them on the internet, and they can sell them in stores, but they have to be in a special section of the store. And so it really expands the 2018 law. And so I was thinking, well, this online sales, that's really a bridge too far, because how are you really going to track some of these foods? And I was talking to my daughter about it today, and she says, oh no, Mexican food is all over Facebook Marketplace and it looks great. And so I did some research today and I thought, well, why didn't I think about this for lunch before? But she's right. There are lots of places on Facebook Marketplace all over Arizona where you can buy lots of food, not just Mexican food, but there's a lot of Mexican food online, and it's pretty anonymous who you're buying it from. And so there are a lot of food trucks. There are a lot of food trucks that have plates up there, but it's a cheap meal. It's got a really good market. People want to buy tamales and the burritos with pork and beef in them. And so how can we make it safe? So I'm not saying we should shut them down. I'm saying that I don't like 2509 at all. But how can we foster these small businesses? Now, I looked at the statutes for food trucks, and there's some things that the food trucks have that the existing, home-made goods laws don't have. There's a little more training. Everybody who handles the food has to have a food handler certificate in the food truck statute. So why not with these home goods also? Why not have them go through the training? Everybody who's making the tamales there, and there are other things. And I think that now they're supposed to have a preparation date on the food. Well, why not have a sell-by date or a freezer consume-by date? So we need to have sort of some better handle on how the food is handled, especially if they're going to move into meat products. Because right now, essentially, people are selling these meat products who don't have a full license or a business license, are operating illegally, and they can be fined, and there's so let's help them succeed. Let's help this become something that they can pursue as a livelihood, but also make it safer for the people of Arizona. Because right now the statute has no sort of way to follow up on, for example, if there's a meat that is contaminated with E. coli or salmonella, you can get seriously ill from something like that. And so right now, if you've thrown away the wrapper and you don't have the registration number and the person isn't at the same corner the next day, how could you even report to the health department that you were sick? Because there's no way to really track. I mean, if the person delivered to your door, or if the person is at a regular corner, then it's able to track, meat going down the line of succession, and you might remember several years ago, there was an E. coli spinach outbreak, and because of the way the laws are set up, they were able to track the E. coli tainted spinach to specific farms. And so with this legislation about home goods, we don't have that kind of tracking. And so we really need to protect the public health. I think better labeling, better training, some sort of inspection, and also, looking about how else we could do this, right? In the New York Times, again, one of the women said that there weren't enough commercial kitchens. She and her partner were producing quite a volume of tamales, seems like making some good money at it, but they were unable to get into a commercial kitchen in Phoenix because there were lines to get in. Well, that's something that governments could solve and make this whole thing a little safer for everybody. And so, rather than waiting for some sort of an outbreak, why don't we fund some commercial kitchens and help them, learn safety techniques and make their business more successful. They can keep their loyal clients who love those tamales and all the other street food that you can buy in Arizona, and keep us all safe at the same time. So anyway, I'm glad that Governor Hobbs vetoed this. I think that this is an issue that people have to look at in the future, and how do we make it safe and help the entrepreneurs succeed at the same time.